the bagging and boosting, right? So random forest, we just reviewed once again what is the difference between bagging and boosting. Boosting is related with, see, the gradient boosted decision tree falls under the boosting category. That's what we have seen it yesterday, and also we discussed about how the boosting algorithm is different from the random forest. What are the advantages and disadvantages of using boosting and random forest, and when we are supposed to use random forest, okay, and when we are supposed to use the gradient boosted decision tree. But most of the cases, if you see, right, with the gradient boosted or boosted decision tree only, they were able to increase the accuracy of the model. Okay, that is what even I have seen it in several business cases. Okay, with boosting we are able to increase the accuracy, and other advantages are like we can do feature selection with the help of random forest and gradient boosted decision tree. That's what one student, he asked this question. He compared the features recommended by gradient boosted decision tree with the random forest, and it is not exactly same. There are some difference, okay, between these two. So end of the day, right, so whatever the features recommended by both these algorithms, you try to fit the model and do the hyperparameter tuning, and finally you check the accuracy. Whichever model accuracy is good, that means those combination of features are really helpful. Okay, it is as simple as that. So, and also we discussed about k nearest neighbor. At the end of the session we discussed about the k nearest neighbor, and also we discussed about the imbalanced data set, right? So how to deal with the imbalanced data set. Most of the time we get the imbalanced data set, we get data issues and all. Oddly, in few business cases or few domains, you will get the clean data, processed data. So okay, now we will understand what is unsupervised machine learning. Okay, as part of unsupervised machine learning, there are three types of algorithm. One is k-means clustering, and other one is hierarchical clustering, and the next one is market basket analysis. Even the market basket analysis falls under unsupervised machine learning algorithm. And one more is principal component analysis, PC. Even that also falls under the unsupervised machine learning algorithm. Okay, first of all, what is unsupervised learning or unsupervised machine learning? Unlike supervised machine learning, when it comes to unsupervised machine learning, we have only the input data, so there are no corresponding output variables. The central idea of the unsupervised model is to find the underlying structure or distribution in the data in order to learn more about the data. So these are called unsupervised learning, because unlike the supervised learning, right, there is no correct answers, there is no teacher here. We are not guiding the algorithm, right? So hey, if you get so and so, if you find so and so pattern, that means the customer is a good customer or bad customer, something like that, right? We teach the system with this data. But when it comes to unsupervised machine learning algorithm, there are no labeled data are available. So even in the case of supervised machine learning algorithm, if you are lucky, the customer will give you the labeled data. Okay, if they don't have the labeled data, you have to derive the labeled data. So then there is a confusion here, right? So let's say you joined with the company as a data scientist, and all the people around you are not the data scientists, they don't know the ABCs of data science, right? So in that case, you need to talk to the business people and understand what exactly they wanted to predict. If they are damn sure about what they are going to predict, then you need to derive the labeled data. How will you derive the labeled data? You need to write some business logic, right? You need to talk to the business stakeholder and find, for example, in the case of bank, so which all conditions or criteria the customers can become a defaulter, right? So which all cases a customer can be considered as a non-default, right? You just find out all the conditions, like kind of if else conditions, right? Nested if else conditions, and then you need to flag the target label value there, okay, and then only you need to train the model. Supposing they have given you the data and even they don't know which column they want to predict, or you are exploring the data, right? So as part of data exploration also, people they use the clustering algorithm, unsupervised machine learning. You don't know what to predict, but you have the data, and unfortunately you don't have the labeled data. In that case, you can go for unsupervised machine learning algorithm. In the case of unsupervised machine learning, as I told you, there are three or four types of algorithms. Other one is k-means algorithm, k-means, and other one is hierarchical clustering. So the k-means and hierarchical, these two falls under clustering technique, clustering algorithm, okay, and other one is market basket analysis, and other one is principal component analysis. Principal component analysis used to do the dimensionality reduction, right? So apart from relying on the features recommended by gradient boosted and random forest, you can use principal component also to do the dimensionality reduction. But the one advantage of the principal component analysis is, in case of any collinearity, right, it can take care of that. Okay. And as I told you, you can use which algorithm to deal with the collinearity. Lasso, ridge regression, right? Ridge regression is helpful too. But again, ridge regression, lasso also has its own pluses and negatives, right? So in that case, you can go for PCA. Obviously, PCA also has some drawbacks in it. Okay, so the PCA, with PCA you cannot, you cannot explain the business users, right? So in terms of translating the output of the PCA into business language, not that easier. It's a bit complex. You cannot do that. That is one challenge is there with PCA. Okay, the unsupervised refers to the problem of finding a hidden pattern within the unlabeled data. Okay, the central idea of this one is to model the underlying structure, right? So in order to learn more about the data, so for that purpose we'll be using this one. And to start with, let us understand what is clustering, right? So what is clustering? Clustering is it's a popular technique that is used to form or identify a homogeneous groups within a given data set, right? So for example, so this is the one. So here we have three different sets of data. All you are doing is, let's say you have given a data set in a CSV file format or Excel or JSON, whatever may be, okay? You converted that as a data frame. So next step is, you don't have any labeled data. All you are going to do is you are going to throw this data to the algorithm. That's all. You are going to show this data to the algorithm. This algorithm has to detect the underlying pattern. If your data has some pattern in it, right, so it will be grouping the data or partitioning the data in a homogeneous groups. Here, look here, each group's data is completely different. Look at this thing, right? So all this in these groups, the similar ones are group, and the dissimilar ones are and it separates the dissimilar one, grouping the similar one and separating the dissimilar. So these are similar one, it grouped it, and this one, and separating the dissimilar ones. So these are not same as this one, hence these 6-7 objects are similar in nature, hence it got grouped together, right? So all these things got grouped and segmented or partitioned or clustered. Okay, so here three clusters are there, right? It is also called a segmentation or analysis or taxonomy analysis. We call this one also this taxonomy analysis, because we don't have any target labeled variable here. Okay, and this k-means clustering falls under unsupervised machine learning algorithm. This is to solve the well-known clustering problem. Okay. It is very easy to understand, even in the case of clustering, right? The different distance metrics are used. Hope you are familiar with the Euclidean distance, which we discussed it in as part of k nearest neighbor, square root of x1 minus x2 whole square plus x3 minus x4 whole square. Right? That is what the Euclidean distance. That's what we discussed. The use cases of the clustering algorithm, document clustering. For example, Google, they Google News, right? Google News, they use k-means technique. I don't know currently what they are using. In the past, they were using k-means technique to group the relevant. Supposing you wanted to view the state-wise, country-wise COVID status, right? So for that, it goes and searches all the websites. So wherever it finds the relevant, information, it groups them together and then it displays that, okay, in the Google thing. So in that case, they used this one. And also in the case of shopping cart, item grouping, image processing, customer segmentation, right? In all these cases, the clustering techniques are used. Let's look at this example. Suppose, let's say whatever the data given to you, right? You just showed it your k-means algorithm. It created 4 groups. Look here. This is group 1 is this color, group 2 is this color, group 3, group 4. So here, when you look at this, right, here the job is very simple. You got the data from the customer, you just, showed it to the algorithm. Algorithm created, but you need to interpret this. That is what called as profiling, right? So the model will produce something like this, but by looking at this, no one can understand. You need to dig into detail of what is there in this group, which customers are falling in this one, which customers are falling in this one. You need to check it manually. So as per this, right, profiling, we could understand that group 1 visits more frequently. If you look at its purchase frequency on the x-axis, y-axis return rate. So here the return rate and the lifetime value and purchase frequency and lifetime value. If you look at this customer, right, group 1, he visits more frequently compared to this group, right? They visits more frequently. Low return rate. The return rate is, if you look at in upwards, right, vertically, the return rate is less, but lifetime value is very high. But when you look at the group 2, right, they are also visiting often. Look here, they are visiting very often, 10 to 12 times, right? Return rate is also very high, but it is going up. Somebody is purchasing more frequently, but they are returning frequently. Then what is the point in saying, right, they are high value customer, right? So they are lowest. The lifetime value of these customers are very less, because they are visiting our in-store more frequently, the return rate is also very high. So return rate, let's say instead of talking about in-store, supposing somebody is ordering it online, all the e-commerce companies, they give 10 days or 1 week time to return the products, right? If the customer purchases 10 items and if he returns all the 10 items and the return, right, they don't charge anything. Shipping cost is free of cost. So it will shoot up their shipping cost. The e-commerce players, shipping cost will go high. So hence the lifetime value is not that good. And group 3, if you look at here, right, so these guys also visits often. The return rate is not as high as these guys, right? And hence the lifetime values kind of good, okay, high lifetime value. And like group 1, right, so low return rate, moderate return rate. This group 4 visit rarely. So, but the problem with group 4 is they visit rarely, okay, and don't return purchases. They don't return it, but rarely they visit. High average lifetime value, high average. So this is how you need to you need to come up with the profiling. You need to profile by taking a look at these data. You need to understand why it grouped all these records into this color and why it grouped these things into this bucket and something like that. You need to understand that. you need to do some kind of research, and then you need to profile that by looking at the data of each and every cluster. You need to group it something like this. You need to do profiling like this. Okay. So the k-means clustering algorithm is a very simple algorithm, very easy to understand. So we discussed about the k nearest neighbor in yesterday's session. And also we discussed about k-fold cross validation. So these things are different, but the k, right? What is the k? K, we are supposed to define the value for that. Okay, we need to predefine the value. Even in the case of the k-means, the same thing. You need to define. So 5 means or 10 means, something like that. Right? Define. First, you need to define the value for the k. Let's say you say this is your data set. This is your data set. When you plot it, when you plot the data set, right, you can find it something like this. Okay, you can find it something like this. The first step of the k-means clustering is you need to define the number of k's. How many clusters or groups that needs to be created. That is what it says. K is equal to 3. That means 3 groups he created. K equal to 4. Create 4 groups. Let's say hypothetically, let's say I defined k is equal to 3, right? So let's say k is equal to 3. First step, k is equal to 3, right? And what happens is, as soon as I specify the number of clusters, which is nothing but k equal to 3, it initializes randomly the 3 centroids. 3 groups needs to be created, or 3 segmentation has to be created. This is what I defined it as part of step 1. As soon as you define the number of groups or clusters, right, so behind the scene what it does is it creates 3 cluster centroids. The second step is assignment step, and the third step is update step. Okay, the second step what it does is, whatever the observations records that are closer to each centroid will be assigned to the respective centroid, and then it update the centroids once again, because when the values for each centroids are assigned, the middle value will also get changed. Hence it has to do the updation. So these 2 steps, 2 and 3, has to be repeated or iterated until it converges. Let us take this simple example to understand k-means clustering. So these are the data set given to me. I plotted it. So what I do is I define k equal to 3 in step 1, right? So 3 segmentations you create, or 3 clusters you created. So randomly you created 3, see 1, 2, 3 centroids. So these are called as centroids. Centroids are kind of, the middle value. Behind the scene, what depends on the number of k, what depends on the value defined it, right? So it creates create that many centroids. So here we mentioned 3. The squared one are called as centroids. So next what happens is assignment and update step. So whichever observations that are closer to this centroid will get assigned to this one. So this one is obviously closer. All these 4 are closer to this one, right? And but if you look at this one, these 3 values are closer to this one. And if you look at these values, these 2 are kind of closer to this one. Let us see what happens. So now, these values are in blue color. Look here, blue color, and this one also blue color. Compared to this centroid and this centroid, this is very closer to this one. So now the initial cluster is formed. So these values are one cluster, and these red colors are one cluster, one group. The next step is, what happens is, where the initial cluster is formed, the assignment step, right? The assignment step, assignment step is nothing but assigning the values that are closer to the centroids, respective centroids. Okay, these values are closer to this one, this value is closer to this one, and these values are closer to this one, and these values got assigned to this centroid or this. So this is how the initial cluster is formed. Next one is update. Update step is very simple. Once the cluster is formed, it has to find out the average of these values, right? To find out the average, when you find average will always be there in the middle, right? This one will get shifted here. That is what we learned measures of central tendency, right? Average is nothing but the central location. If you take the average of all these values, the average will get shifted here. Instead of here, right, it will get shifted here. And in this case, the average will get shifted here. So in this case, if this one gets shifted here, this one, right, and obviously this one will become closer to this one. So this one will become red. Look here. Okay, right? So it keeps on assigning and updating the centroids. So once now you look at here. So so now if you take the average, maybe this one will get shifted here, and if you take the average, right, probably it may get shifted here. From here to here it would have got shifted, and probably this one might get shifted here. But beyond this, right, you don't have to. The algorithm need not to do any more assignment, any more updation. Now the clusters are well formed, right? So as long as the the cluster or clusters are formed well, right, these steps are iterated. That is what it says. Look here, now everything got settled down, right? So okay, still, so if you right, so if you take the average of this one, then this one will come here, and this one also get shifted to this one. Okay, right? So all these values, it keeps on assigning and updating the values, because when you assign any new value, you need to take into account of this one also, right? So you need to take the average by these four values, and the average of these four values will fall somewhere here, and the average of these four will fall somewhere here, right? So you keep iterate, the algorithm keep iterates as long as there are no more assignment updates are required to the cluster. Look at choose K and select. So these are the steps, right? So choose K and select K random centroids, and then next one is assign objects to the cluster. So the assign objects to the cluster with the closest centroid, and update the cluster means repeat steps 2 and 3 until record assignments no longer change. That's all very easy, right? So it's very easy to understand, but how does this algorithm knows, right? How does the algorithm finds out the mean value? How does the algorithm finds out which values are closer to this centroid? Yeah, whether this value is closer to this centroid or not, how it will be determined? That is where the Euclidean distance is used. Yesterday we discussed about Euclidean distance. Apart from Euclidean, there are different types of distance metrics are there, like cosine, tanometer. By default, Euclidean distance is used. Okay. Let us take Euclidean distance with some example. For example, this is the data set given to you, right? This is the data set given to you. X and Y, the customer, they gave you an Excel sheet, and the X column you have this data, and Y column you have this data set. And here you have defined the K is equal to 2. K is equivalent to 2. Yes or not, please carry on. Okay, you watch my recorded video. Okay. So same here, even I'm not feeling well. Anyhow, the thing is, right, I want to finish off quickly here, your batch also, reasonable time. Okay, so look here, so this is the data set given to me, X and Y, right? And if I say K equal to 2, how many number of centroids to be created? 2, right? The 2 centroids will be randomly created. Let us assume that in this case the randomly created observations, this one, record 1 and record 4. These 2 records were randomly considered as the middle value. Okay, now what you need to do is use this K means clustering, the distance metric. So for this centroid, which record is close by? So 1.5, whether this record belong to this cluster or this record belong to this cluster, you need to find out that one using Euclidean distance. Square root of 1.5 minus 1.0 whole squared plus 2.0 minus 1.0 whole squared, and if you take the square root, you will get 1.12. Okay, you get 1 point. This is the distance between the second record and the cluster 1. You just think that way. Okay, and again you need to check the second record with this centroid, right? 1.5 minus 5.0 whole square plus 2.0 minus 7.0 whole square, 6.10. Of these two, which one is smaller?
cluster 1.
Yeah, very simple, right? 1.12.
Yes, sir.
So hence this record is closer to this, cluster 1. Hence this record will get assigned to cluster 1. You remember earlier I told, right? So assignment step is done. What is the next step? Update step. Once the assignment is done, it has to update the centroid, because now you have two records. The centroids will change, right? So 1.0 plus
1.25, 1.5.
yeah, 2.5 divided by 2, right? So 1.5. Yeah,
And next one is 1.5.
very good, right? So look here. So 1 plus 1.5 divided by 2, 2 plus 1.0, centroid will get changed. So assignment, first step is assignment. How the assignment done? Based on the closest distance, right? Since this record as per the Euclidean distance, right, the distance is very closer to this one, assignment step is done. The next step is, as soon as this is done, it has to recompute the centroid values by taking the mean of this one, right? So this is my new centroid.
The centroid, right? It's a update centroid, right? It's for each and every record it will take, or it will first cluster that based on the distance, then it will change the centroid.
Each and every record, okay?
Okay.
Right, yeah, fine. So that one. And then next 3 and 4, right? This record, whether it is closer to this one or this one, right? The same thing, look here. 3 minus 1.25. This time, this is the centroid, right? 3 minus 1.25 and 4 minus 1.5. So whole square, 3.05. And for the second cluster, so far there are no assignment has been done. Hence, this centroid value remain as it is. 3 minus 5. Only when you assign a record to a cluster, you need to recompute the centroid value, right? So in this case, for cluster 2, there are no assignment happened so far. So 3 minus 5.0 whole square plus 4 minus 7.0 whole square, take the square root, you get 3.6. Of these two, which one is closer to cluster, which one is lesser? This one, right?
Yeah.
Hence this record, right? These two records, this record already got assigned to this one. Even this record also get assigned to this cluster 1 only. Cluster 2, so far there are no assignment happened. Hence there is no need to update the centroid value. But whereas here you need to recompute the centroid value. Fine, you need to recompute the centroid value. We will see that the recomputed centroid values for cluster 1 is this one. 1 plus 1.5 plus 3 divided by 3, you get 1.83, something like this, okay? And so next one is, what are the other records are there? This record and this record got assigned to cluster 1, done. So now this record, whether this record is belong to cluster 1 or this one, the same thing, 3.5 minus 3.5 minus 1.83, this one, cluster 1 centroid whole square, plus 5 minus 2.33 whole square, take the square root, 3.13. And 3.5 minus 5.0 whole square plus 5 minus 2.5. In this case, this record distance with this one is very close by compared to cluster 1. Hence this one will get assigned to this one. The next one is update step. It will add these two values, take the mean of this one. So the cluster centroid will get changed. It keep on, it keep iterates as long as there are no more assignments or update steps are required. Okay. And
one question here. So for example, if now this another record is added to the cluster 2, right? 5.7.
Yeah.
Now the centroid has changed now.
Yeah.
It will be something around 4.2.
Some value. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So will it compute the distance again? Whatever that is already computed, like 3,4 record.
Yes.
Okay, so it's once the iteration done, it will.
No. Sorry. See, already this cluster has been formed, right? Right? It will not go back again here, and that assignment has been done. The next one is this one. This one will get assigned to this one. It will check, right? Only these, the rest of the records only will get checked up with this one and the cluster 1 centroids.
Yeah, I got it. That I got it. I'm saying that consider that all the 7 records are computer and we got the centroid and assigned to that particular group, particular cluster. Okay. Now, the consider the fourth and fifth record, right? So once this cluster is formed, the centroid will be changed.
Yes.
It may decrease, right? Now,
Yeah.
when it's decreased, it may go
You are
to
correct. You are
become
correct.
a 4.
Got it. Got
Then
it. Got it. So even right. So for the 7 records, when we do this, the centroid will also get changed. That's what I said, right? So look here. So take the cluster 1, right? So the new 1.83. In that case, the rest of the values will get checked. There are, because other records already we checked it, right? So other record. Okay, what you are saying is in this case 5 and 7 are there, right? If it is different values, lesser values, there could be chances it might even these records, right, whatever got assigned to cluster 1, there could be, because of the change of the centroid, it might get shifted. Yes.
yeah, okay.
So in that case, yes, every observations will get checked with the distance will be computed for every other every observation will be the distance of every objects will be compared with your centroids, newly computed centroids. Correct.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
You are correct. So okay, the next step is how do we choose the optimal value for k. So here the k we took 3. In this case, let's say k is equal to 2, right? So can I take 2 or can I take 3, or in the real time scenario we have more number of records and more number of categories will also be there. Can I take, so we have something called this one, scree plot. This is called your scree plot, using which you can plot the so you can plot the here you have within group sum of squares and number of clusters. Look here, when I used the 2 cluster, the within group of sum of squares get reduced, right? So you need to look at something called elbow method, right? So you need to look at the elbow kind of thing, where the elbow is there, right? So it's kind of elbow here. With that you can decide, okay, I can use only 2 clusters. But anyhow, there are some packages are available in R, but in Python it is, I need to check. Okay, with that you can find out, it tells us automatically, okay, how many number of clusters or what value you need to define it for your k, it automatically tells us. Okay, so okay, next one is when it comes to clustering technique, even in the case of principal component analysis, you need to do some kind of data pre-processing, right? So which is, data pre-processing is very common. As part of data pre-processing, you need to do a specific task like scaling. You need to do scaling, transform all the variables into same scale. All the variables into same scale. Take for example age and income. The age column at the maximum it can take only 3 digits, right? Even 100 years nobody lives, right? So even if they live, right, 100, 103, but nobody lives beyond 3 digits, right? So beyond 3 digits, and maximum 3 digits only will be there. And the income, it can be any number of any digits, right? It can be 6 digits, 7 digits, 8 digits, depends on the company's income or revenue, right? If you look at this, it depends on the size of the company, all the things that matters. But when you go by go by these variable to plot a cluster, right, or to create a cluster, so when look at here, so what will happen is the 10,000, right? So 10,050, 26-year-old guy is the 10050, and another 26-year-old guy 10400, right? You plot it, if you plot it, it will be like this. But a 30-year-old guy is getting 10,000, you plot it here, and the same 30-year-old guy 10,500. Now you tell me how the cluster should be created, by combining these two or combining these two. If I do, what will happen?
Based on the income, I think we should.
Right? So just because I have the more digits presence is there, right? More number of digits are there in this column, right? It will try to outnumber this one, right? It will mislead this one. right? So what we are doing is, okay, look here. So ideally what we want is 26 and 26, right? So here 30-year-old guy. So okay, so the question is, can I group it like this or can I group it like this? A 26-year-old guy is also, his income is also somewhat closer to this one, right? And 26-year-old guy's income is also somewhat closer to this one. All we need to do is we need to go by age and income, right? Age and income. But if you go by age and income, right? So this is your age, this is your income, right? So all we wanted to do is in cluster 1, what are the salaries, right? So supposing instead of 10500, right? Supposing this guy is also 10,000, right? So the 26-year-old is falling here, right? So we wanted to do something like this. We don't want to do something like this, right? So we want to do something like this. So all the people, those salary is low income group category, right? Irrespective of the age or age irrespective of the age or something, right? So, but the problem with this one, right? Since you have higher values in one column and you have a lesser digit, right? Number of digits, higher number of digits in one column, lesser number of, right? So it can cause problems. Okay. So to overcome that, we do some kind of scaling. So how do we do scaling? We have something like z-score, or we have min-max technique is also available. Z-score is a popular one. X minus mu. Mu is your average and sigma is your standard deviation. So in this case, if you look at the age, right? So I put all things. The mean of the age is the mu. Okay, I call it 28, and the standard deviation is this one. Just plug in the value 28 minus 2.30. Sorry. This one 30 minus 28 divided by this one, you will get this value, right? So 26 minus this one, you will get this one, and 30 minus this one and divided by this one. So when you do scaling even for income column, right? So both the values now looks somewhat between 0 and 1 only, right? Somewhat smaller. Hence, just because my income has more number of digits, it should not supersede my age values, right? So that is the reason why we need to do scaling. You can use z-score, or there are functions or methods that are readily available. You don't have to manually compute or like this. Just pass the values. It does the scaling. Okay, scale function is available in all. The next step is, how do I make sure the clusters that were created are optimal? So what is a good clustering? Simple rule of thumb is this one. Intra-cluster similarity should be high. The inter-class similarity is low. Intra-class similarity should be high, right? So intra-class, for example, you have two clusters, right? So all the values are there in this one. It should be very closer. It should be tight, right? All the values are very closer. So here you have something called square, right? So all these values are very closer, right? So all these values are very closer, but the distance between the two clusters should be far off, right? As far as possible. Okay, but in some cases you will get something like this also. Okay, but at least the farther the distance between one cluster to another cluster, that means it is good. Okay, intra-class similarity is high, right? The similarity of all these values are very closer, and the inter-class similarity, right? So compared to this and this one, right, it is not similar, very low, right? There is no similarity, dissimilarity is there. So this is the formula. How well my cluster is separated. Okay, the this one, right? The absolute of cluster centroid, and this cluster's mean value minus the, right? It should be the between summa square. This is called your between summa square, within summa. Within summa square is nothing but within this cluster, how close these values are, right? If it is, let's say, if these values are too far, right? If it is too far, then something wrong. Okay, maybe these observations can, if you create another cluster, maybe these two clusters fall in other, these two observations can fall in another cluster. Okay, so all the values that you have in each cluster should be closer to the centroid, as close to the centroids as possible. That is what you are within the cluster. All the values should be very very tight, right? Each cluster should be tight in the sense values that are in within this cluster, right? It should be very closer to the centroid, right? As close to as well. If it is too far from the centroid, then something wrong. Okay, maybe you need to create another cluster instead of using k equal to 2, k equal to 3. So between cluster, right, between sum or square should be more, and that means these two clusters are separated well, and within the cluster, right, the values are supposed to be closer. That is what it says. With that we can decide how well my cluster has been created. So we will see a demo in the script. Before that, I will finish up the hierarchical clustering also. There is something else called hierarchical clustering. Within the hierarchical, there are two types. One is agglomerative, other one is diffusive clustering. The agglomerative is bottom up and it is a top down. It's very easy to understand. Look here. You are given 5 observations. Okay, A, B, C, D. 5 records are there. Okay, 4 steps here also. Right. First, you need to create a pairs. Right. First of all, in the case of hierarchical clustering, it consider each and every data point as a cluster, singleton cluster, and then the second step, it creates a pair based on the proximity of the observations. So each A, B, C, D, all these 3 observations are considered as a singleton cluster, and the next step is it tries to find out whether A and B, these 2 pairs are close by. Yes, it creates these 2 things. Okay, it combines these 2 things, and similarly it looks the value here. D and E are closer. This pair wise it does the clustering. D and E is closer, hence create a group here. And since C is closer to DE, right? Combine all these 3 values in a single cluster, and finally it all these values, right? So this is bottom up, right? First consider each and every observation as a singleton cluster and create a pair based on the proximity. And once you create the pair, right? So see here the pair will be created, and we look at another. See the algorithm, it looks at another observation, it checks the distance between these 2 and this one. Compared to this one, this is very nearby, hence this value is combined with this pair. Right? This one will get iterated, right, till all these clusters get merged into a single cluster. Form a repeat step 2 and 3. Find a pair of clusters that is closest and agglomerate merge closest and merge the 2 clusters and only one cluster. Recompute the distance between the clusters. Now AB and CD. So the distance between these 2, right? We don't have any other values, hence these 2 are meshed together. So the whole idea is you need to keep iterate the merging the pairs till it becomes a single cluster. That's all. Very easy, isn't it? So that is how it works. So here also the Euclidean distance is used. So look at here, each and every observation I have given different color because each and every observation is considered as a singleton cluster. Everything is a cluster here, okay? And based on the distance, it creates a pair, okay? So these 2 are closer and these 2 are closer and maybe these 2 are closer. Right, so finally look here. So these 2, right, finally these 3 are closer, and and this one will get combined, and finally everything will get merged together as a single cluster. This is what called as agglomerative cluster. It is not a top down, it is a bottom up, right? Here also we have to do scaling, right? Like I said, you need to scale the data. When it comes to clustering, you need to scale the data. Okay, I will show you in R how to do scaling and common distance functions. Okay, a single linkage, distance between closest elements in clusters. Look here, this is one cluster, this is one cluster, right? So between these two clusters, which values are closer, right? The two different, so we have two homogeneous clusters. That means it is completely different from one another, but still between these two clusters, which observations are closer? That is called a single linkage. And complete linkage is opposite. Between these two clusters, which values are too far? So this one and this one, these two values, that is called your complete linkage. Average linkage is average of all pairwise clusters. Okay, you take the average of this one, and see which one you need to compute the distance. Okay, and we have Watt's method, the Watt's distance method. Right? It is the distance between cluster 1 and cluster 2. Right, there is the distance between C and Cj is the distance between the total within cluster sum of squares for the two clusters separately, and the within cluster sum of squares resulting from merging the two clusters in cluster Cj. So total within cluster sum of squares for the two clusters separately. See what is the within clusters sum of squares here. What is the within cluster sum of squares, and then the total sum of squares, right? So that is what it has to find out. And anyhow, I will show. This is called a dendrogram. When you plot a chart, you will get something like this. When you plot the hierarchical cluster, you will find something like this. This is called your dendrogram. The difference between k-means and hierarchical: in the case of k-means, you should tell the algorithm upfront how many number of clusters to be created. The other advantage of k-means is it works well with the huge volume of the data, whereas in the case of hierarchical clustering, you don't have to tell the how many number of clusters that are required upfront, but the flip side of this one is, right, it can handle only few data points and takes exponential time for the high number of observers. Sometimes difficult to identify the correct number of clusters with a dendrogram, because if you look at here, right, so many clusters are there, right? So these two are grouped together, and these two are grouped together. In this case, I took only hardly 100 records or 26 records. Okay, even for this, right, it creates so many things, right? But if you in real time scenario will be working with reasonably 100,000 records. In that case, when you create a cluster, right, it will be so many clusters will be there, difficult to find out which one you need to use. And again, the computational time is very, very high when you use the hierarchical cluster. You will see how by looking at this one. Okay. Now let us see how to implement the clustering in R. Okay, we are done with this. Data set is not available in my local disk. Okay, now I imported this data set. So let us view what are the contents of this data set. Look here. Take for example the mobile store, right? For example, even in Chennai, right, we have something called Purvika. Purvika is very popular, right? They have spreaded. They started many branches in Chennai and other cities also within shorter span of time, right? Purvika or Sangeeta Mobile. Right? So look at this one. Let's say leading mobile store. They have different stores spreaded across, across the city. And in Adyar, each columns self-explanatory, right? Which brands of mobile phones. And in Adyar, how many number of Apple iPhone they sold it. And Samsung how many number of units they sold it. So each brand in each region, how many number of units they sold it, that is the data we have it. The management, they have given this data, Now all we need, this is an aggregated data, right? So every week on a daily basis, maybe, right? So if you take last 3 months data, you need to aggregate it. Aggregate it as, let's first month 50 records, second month 25, third month 26. If you sum all the things, you'll get like this. Aggregated. This is aggregated data. 3 months aggregated data. You assume that way. If I go here, what I'm going to do is, first step is I'm going to normalize the data. See, the first one is the region, right? I'm going to exclude this column because even in the case of k-means hierarchical clustering, all the variables supposed to be numerical. If it is not numerical, you need to convert it to numerical. Fortunately, in our case, it is all numerical. The next step is we need to do scaling in order to address the different diverse unit of measure, right? So we are going to convert all the variables values into common unit of measure. So for that, there is a function scale is available. You remember I showed you how to compute, how to find out the scaled values using the z-score, right? So here you don't have to compute it manually. There is a built-in function called scale. So now let us see what values are there in z. So these are the values. Look here, most of the values are very smaller here, very smaller here, right? So it's all very smaller. And next what I'm going to do is there is a function called dist, using which I'm going to find out the distance between one observant to other observations. Look here, it looks so neat, right? So this is my data set. Forget about this one, right? This is my record 1. Record 1. See, overall we have how many number? 24 records, excluding the column, right? 24 records are there. It put 24 records both in horizontal and vertical. And if you look at here, the record 1, it computed the distance, right? So if you look here, which one is the smaller value? So record number 7, let us see here. Okay, so let us do one thing. Now let us look at manually here, because in my PDF file I put it there, I closed it somehow. So look here. So here the 6, 2, anyhow, let us not worry about this at this moment. I will show you how to group them, right? After grouping that, let us take a look at it. I'm going to skip all the steps. K-means algorithm, right? So K-means, there is a built-in function called K-means. The first argument is z. Here I did not use distance and all, just a scaled value, scale, right? Z. I just passed that as an argument here. And number of clusters, the second argument is number of clusters. I just randomly gave 2 and I just run it here. Okay, now ignore the, okay, let us do one thing. Look at here. So 2 clusters of size 10 and 15. That means in cluster 1, 10 records went in, and cluster 2, 15 records went in. On what basis it went in? We need to do research. And look here, this is something called the clustering vector. Okay, so we have 2 clusters created, right? So 1 and 2. So this is the records. The first record was falling in the first cluster. Second record was falling in the second record. Third record was falling in the second cluster. Fourth record was falling in the first record. Look here, this fourth one was falling in the cluster 1. Maybe there are some the values are somewhat closer. Maybe the Bhuvaneshwar sales is same as Adyar sales somewhat. Okay, so that's why it put everything here. And 5 and 2. See, it is taking the combination of all the values. Don't look at Adyar sales alone, right? So Bhubaneswar and Adyar alone don't compare it. So somewhat Bhubaneswar 78 and 101, don't say this is too far, right? Don't think that, but it has to, it will take into account of all the values. Okay, look here. So that is what this one says. Which values, which records went into which cluster? That is what it tells us, the clustering vector. This is the one tells us the centroids. Cluster 1, what is the centroid for Apple, Samsung, LG, and cluster 2, what is the centroid for each brand. Fine, we are done with that. The next one is, I am going to use a ready-made package, FPC, and K means runs. It tells me how many number of, what is the optimal value for the cluster. Package called FPC. So if you don't, if you run into any error like this, right, go to tools and click install packages, and here FPC, I don't know, FPC is available. Those days, many packages, they made it obsolete. Installed packages. See what happens is, this one will give you, K means runs between 2 to 20 clusters, right? Create between 2 to 20, yeah, it is there, it is installing 2 to 20 cluster. What you do is, you need to tell me by using 2 to 20 clusters, which number of clusters are the optimal one. So it tells us how many number of clusters that you need to create it. Okay, this is the correct. If you create more or less than the recommended one, it will not be well separated, right? That is the issue will be there. 1 second. Okay, it's being installed. The next step is, we are going to view these centers and within sum squared, and total within sum squared, and within SS, all things. Okay, 1 second. Let me do one thing. I will directly go here. Or else I'm going to stop this one now, okay? Because I updated it long back. The many packages will get installed. Oh, thank God it got installed. Okay, look here. I'll be importing it here now. So I installed the FPC package successfully, and next one is, I need to, in order to use this, I need to import it. In R, you have to use a function called library to import the package. Look here, it suggested me to use only 2 clusters. Don't use lesser than this one, don't use more than this. Lesser than this one doesn't make any sense. Don't use more than 2, that is what it says. So next I'm going to see what are these things are, right? So these are all my 2 clusters, centroids alone. If I want to see the centroids of these 2 clusters, okay, fine. This the next one is, forget about this one. Yeah, so I'm going to create a new file. This is not there in my system. So what I'm doing here is, you just execute this script and see what happens. I'll explain. Dat1, in the dat1 folder, cust seg3. Look here. So June 27, today 7 p.m. it got created. I'm going to open it. What I did here is nothing big I did, right? So I grouped all the cluster 1 related records and cluster 2 records. Okay, I flagged 111 by not flagging the new one, existing one, right? I just filtered that one like this and filtered, and I segregated. I create a group. You can say group or segregation, something like that. Okay, so all these records, all these regions are falling into one cluster, one group, and this one is falling in another group. Another group. Now let us see, why all. Now only you need to do profiling. Right? Now you need to check why these values are grouped together. Right? So if you look at the values here, right? So combining all these values here, 17, and Bhubaneswar it is 78, but it is 60. And but if you look at here, look here, Sony. If you look at this column, Sony, right? More than 360 or so, right? You can find it here. In this region, we could see we sold more units of Sony brand mobiles compared to this one, right? Without even sweating, right? Otherwise, you need to write multiple group by to find out all the things, right? You just simply gave that, see, grouped it. With that, we could understand. So, in this region 1, in this region, right, we are selling more on Sony mobile. Probably we can stock up more item. And HTC, you look at HTC and this one, right? So in this region, HTC sale is far better, right? Here 64 is there, and most of the values are less. But here, if you look at it, right, so 62 and here 64, right? So 52 and most of here 6, 11 and all is there, right? But here almost all the shops in these regions, HTC sales is very good. And iPhone, you look at the iPhone here. iPhone, we could see that here, right? So close to 75, some 756, and here it comes around 113, right? So in this region, the iPhone sale is far better compared to this one, right? So by looking at this, what kind of recommendations you can make? You can suggest upfront, in these regions, the Sony sale is very good, and in these regions, by and large, the HTC sales is very good. And also, if you look at the Philips, they are selling very well, right? Here it is not that good. Above 50, you don't see anything here, right? You don't see above 40 itself, you don't see anything. Above 30, above 35, you don't see anything here. But whereas, look here, Philips, we are selling more here. And so we will, by looking at this, we can see in Tenali and Hyderabad. So if we could have stocked up more, had we stocked up more more units in this area, right? What we will do is, let us stock up less here, and we will redistribute to the area where the sale is more for Philips. So this is how you need to analyze the data, and you need to present it very well in the PowerPoint with the recommendations. What kind of action plan? This is called profiling. Right? You did some kind of profiling, manual analysis. You need to do it. Everything will not be given. Right? You need to. But only thing is, here we need to do some kind of query. You need to write it to group all the cluster 1 related entire record and 2 related entire record. That is very simple, right? So since you are all hands-on people, right? By looking at it, but to forget about script plot. Script plot is to show the optimal number of clusters. But here there is a the built-in function k-means runs is available, using which we are able to find out the optimal number of clusters too. So next, what I am going to do is I am going to plot it. I don't know whether cluster package is available because it's a brand new system. Yeah, it is k-mean.fit. Yeah, otherwise let us do one thing. Let us use this one. Yeah, I think so. You should have plotted it for that. So look here. So this line got executed. 2 clusters got created. So the first record and the 18th record, 10th record, 19th record, the 17th record, 13th, all these customers got grouped into this one, because these customers or these regions, right, these regions sales may be somewhat similar. And if you look at this one, cluster 2, right, these region sales are somewhat similar by taking into consideration of all the brands units. Right? So visually also you can say. So these two components explain 57%, 16% point availability. Ideally it should be somewhat closer to 1, but it is okay. But it is well separated. There should not be any overlap. If you say instead of 2, if you put 3 there, right? So the other cluster will get, will have an overlap of this one. There should not be any overlap. That means this one should not start here and end here. Okay, that is an overlap. That means the clusters were not well segregated. Right, so you take your real-time data set, try to plot it, something. If you don't get anything, right, don't worry. That means your data doesn't have any pattern, right? But if you, let's say, fortunately you have pattern in your data set, and if you see 2 or 3 clusters, right, and do some kind of profiling, do analysis, right, and find out why it assigned all these records into cluster 1, why it assigned these records into cluster 2. You need to do analysis like this. Then you will get an idea. Oh, okay, because of this, these records got grouped together in this one. So the next one is hierarchical cluster. This is k-means cluster, and next one is hierarchical cluster. In the case of hierarchical cluster, there is a built-in function hclust. Hclust stands for hierarchical cluster. So what we do is, hclust. So in the case of hierarchical cluster, we need to find out the distance between every observations. Okay, so hclust of distance I already computed is distance of z. There is a built-in function called dist of the scaled values, and now I'm going to use the distance hc. Now I'm going to plot everything here. Okay, let's see what happens. Here you don't have to tell the number of clusters. Okay, look here. So the Calicut and Hyderabad, according to this, the Calicut and Hyderabad sales are somewhat closer according to this one. Okay, where is Calicut and Hyderabad, right? So 87, 114, 116, 28, 37, 125, 117, somewhat closer. That is what it says. Perambur, and see, it grouped all these things. It created the dendrogram. It's a pairwise. It considered each and every record as a singleton cluster, and then we discussed about single linkage cluster. What is single linkage cluster? Let's say you have 2 clusters. For these 2, right? What observations are closer between these 2 clusters, right? So that is what singleton. If I use single linkage cluster, don't worry about all the things. I will explain you little later. Okay, which one should I? When I use single linkage, it says Rayapet and Santom sales were somewhat closer, right? And if I use average linkage, let's see what happens. It will be different for different types of linkage within the hierarchical cluster. It groups the data in different way, but I need to know which type of cluster is better within this hierarchical cluster. Okay, whether agglomerative or top down, or agglomerate or top down, or singleton or single linkage cluster, or which one is better. So what I am going to do is I am going to cut this tree into 3 groups. So HC stands for hierarchical cluster. Look here, this one, right? Hierarchical HC, the first one, right? The plain thing. One second, if I do something like that, we will get to know. By default, it uses Euclidean distance. This is called your complete linkage. What is the difference between single linkage and complete linkage? Between the 2 cluster, which values are 2 for, right? Right. So between the 2 cluster, which 2 values are, or irrespective of the cluster, which 2 values are far off. That is what complete linkage. When by default, it is a complete linkage, and it uses the distance metric called Euclidean. Number of records are 25. So I tried with all the types of hierarchical clustering, and I'm going to cutting the tree. Alright, in the case of if you click this one, it will take you back to the previous. This is the first one, right? Or let's say, this is the first one. This is your hierarchical cluster, complete linkage. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the tree only, right? So here 1, 2 and 3. I'm going to cut the tree into 3, and I'm going to compare. I'm going to use something called table. Table will give you the frequency distribution. Look at here. Look at the table function, right? You don't worry about anything. Here cut tree cluster mem and average cluster and the complete linkage. Okay, which one should I use? Can I use average cluster or can I use the complete linkage? The table function is very much helpful, right? I cut the tree for hierarchical clustering and complete linkage and average clustering with the three clusters. And with this, when I see the thing, right, this is your complete linkage and this is average linkage. If you look at here, right, three clusters, because we took only 3 clusters, right? We cut the cluster into 3 different part only. And if you look at horizontally, in cluster 1, 6 records are there. In cluster 2, in this one is in record 1, right? Okay, the 3 clusters. In the first cluster, 6 records are there. In the second cluster, right, 2 and 15 is the third cluster, 2 values are there. But if you add horizontally, right, if you add this one, the first cluster 8 records, 15 records, 2 records. But if you look at vertically, the first cluster 9 records are there, second cluster 17, third cluster 5 records are there. Let's say you have 3 clusters. Each cluster should have somehow even number of records, right? Observations. Approximately, all the 3 clusters should have approximately the even number of records. Let's say in one cluster I have 100 records. Other cluster I have only 5 records. In other cluster I have 1000 records. That means something wrong. The cluster is not balanced well, right? Balanced well. If you look at these 2 things, right, the complete linkage and if you compare these 2, which one is better? See, in cluster 1 it put 6 plus 2 8, 8, 15, 2, but in third cluster only 2 values are there. But when you look at the average cluster, the first one is 8, same as this one. This I should not take into account. Okay, 6 into 2 is 8. Second cluster you have 15, 8, 15 and 2, right? So here 6, here 8, 15, 2. So in this case we are not conclusive, right? So let us use Watt's method. One second. Okay, if you 1, 2, 3, right? So so you need to look at this one. See, in the first cluster 6 records are there, second cluster 17 records are there, third cluster 2. But if you look at vertically, instead of 6, 8 records are there. Instead of 17, 15, 8, 15, 2. This is better, right? 8, 15, 2. Instead of having 16 and 17. Look here, I'll just write this. First cluster 6, right? Second cluster 17 and third cluster 2. And if you look at vertically, right, 8 and 15 and 2. This is better, right? Somewhat evenly distributed the values, right? Instead of, see here you have 6 only, but here 8 values grouped together. Here you have 17, right? But 15. Right? The remaining 2 went here, right? And 2. So this one is, it should be even. So hence average cluster is far better than the complete linkage. So what you do is you need to compare similarly with other thing, Watt's method, another thing, and create a table and compare them. And whichever type of the hierarchical cluster which got distributed evenly, approximately evenly, right? Approximately even to all the clusters. That means that type is good. So the script brand affinity, now this is also available in my GitHub, okay, and the data set is also available, B affinity. You just download and practice it. Python I will show you later, but the idea is same everywhere, only the package name and the commands are different. What is k-means clustering, what is hierarchical clustering? Once you understand it, the next step is profiling, right? Profiling, how to implement them and how to do profiling. Profiling, that is where the domain knowledge is very much helpful, right? So the domain knowledge, with the domain knowledge you can do wonders. You can come up with a lot of patterns, recommendations. Who knows, your recommendation might drive their top and bottom lines also. So with this I completed both the clustering technique, hierarchical and this one, k-means clustering. And next one is time series. I can complete it, but I don't want to proceed with time series. I think, right, you might get overwhelmed. Is it okay if I can continue now, or can we continue next weekend, time series? In fact, I thought of covering market basket analysis today. Anyhow, that is also very simple algorithm. We'll cover it next weekend. Time series is used for forecasting. Okay, what we will do is the next weekend, right, we will continue with this one. And what we will do is ideally, next weekend we'll finish off everything, all the leftover thing, the supervised machine learning, and then followed by the next weekend we will send you the assignments. Okay, in the meantime, start work on the assignments and try to solve all the business cases, whatever I give it to you. And the next thing is followed by that weekend, right, we will circle back and we'll take a dive into deep learning and NLP. Okay, any questions? Fine, I will upload the video as usual, and you can go to my GitHub and download all the files, right? While watching my video, you will see, right, whichever script name and file in the same script name I would have used it, and all the things, right? You can, because in this laptop, right, I installed the Windows from the ground up. Since I downloaded from the GitHub only, all the script and data set. Okay, that is up to date one only. Fine. Okay, we will circle back next weekend. Okay, bye bye. Take care. Please keep review the topics whatever I covered so far. Okay, don't give up.
Yeah. Yes.